Hey guys, this is ARC the Clarinet Master, and welcome to my first YouTube commentary. Now, for those of you who are new to commentaries, basically this is where we watch other people's videos which are not very well constructed, and we basically just offer constructive criticism. So one day I was on YouTube and I came across a video called Forests in the Olden Days, from a user called Lindybeige. Now, I really don't know much about Lindybeige as a whole, but from what I can gather, he's basically this historian who makes educational videos about the Middle Ages and various other topics. So yeah, I decided to click on his video about forests in the olden days, because I was genuinely interested to see what they were like in medieval times. But then another video of his caught my attention, a rant video entitled "Actress is a Perfectly Good Word." So out of curiosity, I just decided to watch the video, and as the title would suggest, Lindy discusses how women prefer to be referred to as actors rather than actresses. And this is the video I'll be commentating on. Yep, it's one of those videos. This ought to be fun. And just so we're clear, no, I'm not trying to appeal to radical feminists or SJWs. In fact, I'm planning to commentate on these types of people in the future. I'm just giving my personal opinion on what is a very touchy subject matter. However, if I do start to sound like an SJW, feel free to let me know how, so I can back down on it in the future. This is also not a personal attack on Lindybeige. I'm just trying to give constructive criticism because he does seem like a nice guy, and I just think he might need a little bit of insight, you know. And lastly, I should probably also point out the elephant in the room, in that this video contradicts one of my channel updates where I said I would no longer discuss gender issues and other controversial topics. I think it's about time, however, I scrapped that rule, since there are things I want to speak up about. But just so you know, my channel isn't going to entirely become about expressing my opinions on these political issues. I still want to create fun, entertaining videos, you know, because my channel's basically a variety channel. So yeah, if you really don't want to watch these kinds of videos, you don't have to. That is, unless you're giving criticism, which is always welcome as long as you're constructive and polite about it. So with that out the way, let's begin the commentary.
That's boring. You're boring, everybody! Quit boring everyone!
When I refer to a woman whose profession is acting, I call her an actress, because I believe this to be a perfectly accurate word to describe her. That's what she does. She acts, and she's a woman. But the current fashion is to refer to them as actors. And I believe this is a very pernicious thing. I cannot think of any more powerful way of making it absolutely clear to all listeners that there is something lesser about being an actress over being an actor, that presumably women can't act very well, or just women are just innately inferior to men, because otherwise, why would we risk insulting them by calling them actresses? Because if that's an insult, then clearly an actress must be somehow shameful or lesser than an actor. Why should that be?
Oh my god. You are completely missing the point here. They are not... Oh my god. They're not saying that being female is somehow inferior. The point is that the standard form actor is treated as masculine, and to make it feminine you just tack a suffix on the end, and that's supposed to signify that it's a woman. The presence of this suffix indicates that being female is somehow lesser and inferior, because it's basically saying that women are just a subset of men, and only exist in relation to men. How did you miss that?
I call them actresses, not just because I have a love of the English language or because I believe it's just perfectly accurate, but also because I have far too much respect for women not to. I don't want to insult them by calling them actors.
And yet you're okay with insulting women by referring to them as though they're the second sex, so to speak. Look, I'm not going to label you as a misogynist, especially since your heart is apparently in the right place here. I mean, hell, you even said you respect women, so I will give credit to you on there. But the problem is that you're jumping to conclusions and just assuming that we're saying that just being female is inferior, when we're actually trying to say the opposite. It's not that being female is something to hide. It's the fact that being male is just treated as perfectly normal, while being female is treated as something special, whether for better or worse. Which, to us guys, makes perfect sense, because to us, being male is normal, because it's just part of who we are. But if you're a woman, well, shouldn't being female be completely 100% normal, while men are the other sex? So how is it fair that they have to view everything through a male lens?
I don't want to promote them to the high, lofty status of actor. Oh, you're so good at acting. Why, you could be a man. It's
Funny, I was going to say the same thing about you.
amazing. Oh, does anyone think that women are not good at acting or are less good at acting than men?
No, and that's why we want to abolish the term. Now, just so we're clear, I'm not against using separate words to define if something's female or male. I mean, I'm fine with people saying boy and girl, daughter and son, mother and father, brother and sister, that sort of thing, because the thing about these words is that they are two separate words in each of these cases, and they perfectly complement each other to show that the two sexes do complement each other and they go hand in hand. Again, I don't have a problem with that. But the problem with actor and actress is that the feminine form is just a modified version of the masculine form. That is the main issue we're taking with it. You need to remember that the S suffix dates back to a time period when women pretty much couldn't do anything. They were basically viewed as the property of men and only existed to keep house and to make babies, that sort of thing. That was basically the role of women at the time. They weren't allowed to pursue their dreams, get a good career and stuff. They weren't allowed to act. So naturally, if a woman did any of those things at the time, it was viewed as something abnormal. So at the time, yes, it did make sense back then to add that suffix to indicate it was female, because women were viewed as lesser beings at the time. But in this day and age, now that women pretty much have equal rights and they can pretty much do anything that doesn't require upper body strength, and sometimes even then, we shouldn't have to make the distinction. The word actor should just be gender neutral. And really, the S suffix could be applied to anything, aside from all the obvious ones like princess, baroness, waitress, you could apply it to any occupation such as scientistess, gameress, doctress, artistess, singeress, commentatress. You sort of get where I'm going with this? I wouldn't mind that so much if there were a masculine counterpart, but I've searched the web and apparently there is none. There is no masculine suffix which you add onto something to indicate that it's male, and again, this is the result of a society that was formerly that buzzword that feminazis throw around, but is now sort of just an artifact of that awful time period. If there were a masculine suffix, like a male counterpart to S, then we wouldn't have this problem. Let's just say, M. Let's say if I tack that onto the word actor to make it actrem. Basically, that's just sort of an indicator to say someone who acts who happens to be a man, I could say that, Robin Williams is one of the funniest actrams who ever lived. Or that Mr. Enter is a terrible reviewer. Again, do you see where I'm going with this? If there were a masculine suffix to complement the feminine suffix, then it wouldn't matter. But there isn't. That's why we're taking issue with it. Yes, women do have equal rights, so why are we pretending that they don't? Also, about the whole, oh, you're such a great actor, you could be a man thing. Well, let's just say if the M suffix or something similar was in common use, and, some guy wanted to become, say, a nurse or a stripper, very female-dominated fields, but he didn't want to be referred to as nursem or striprem. Would that make him less of a man? Is it implying that being male is somehow inferior, and that he just wants to be a woman? No, it just means he doesn't want to constantly draw attention to the fact that he's a man, and he just wants to do his job.
When I have put this to some actual professional actresses, the most common reply has been, you see, there's a strong association between actress and prostitute. Is there?
No, not that I know of. It didn't even occur to me until I watched your video. Mainly because I don't view women as sex objects. And I'm sure most Western men don't either. So I don't get where these actresses you've spoken to are coming from with this whole prostitution thing. So maybe you have a point. I mean, you could have just spoken to some of the more, feminazi types. They're just making it harder for women to be taken seriously. So yeah, I do kind of see where you're coming from. So let's hear it out.
Now, I can believe that association did once exist in the Jacobean period, but for goodness sake, today, it's 2015, there's nearly 2016.
Exactly! It's 2016 and women don't want to be reminded of their dark and troubled past. Now, granted, the whole prostitution thing is really far-fetched and, nobody thinks of prostitution when they think of women acting nowadays, but, it's just the fact that it is a reminder of that time when women were just viewed as lesser beings or the second sex. That's what it's a reminder of. And again, we wouldn't have a problem if there were a male counterpart, but there isn't, aside from the one I just made up. All I'm getting from your video is that you're saying, oh, it's okay to classify women as a minority because they have equal rights now, so they won't mind. Well, by that logic, I could say it's okay to treat men the same way because they have equal rights, right? Look, I know that's probably not what you meant, and deep down you probably do genuinely care about women, as you previously stated. But when you're pretty much stating we live in an era when women have equal rights, don't you think that would be a good reason not to indicate otherwise? Now, I'm not saying we should completely deny our history because, we need to learn from our past mistakes so we don't make them again and all that stuff. But there's a time and a place for this stuff. History class, history books, or even just looking it up on the internet. And heck, if you're watching a period piece, it's pretty much guaranteed you're going to come across some outdated customs. But that doesn't mean we need constant reminders in our everyday lives that life just wasn't how it is now. Women just want to get on with their daily lives, do what they enjoy doing. They don't need to be reminded of when they couldn't. I don't know, I just feel sorry for girls knowing that they grew up in a world where they're exposed to hearing women couldn't do this and she was the first woman to do that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm proud of women's achievements over the years, but it's just the fact that they're being reduced to their gender. It's 2016, can't we just treat women as equals? And then there's the fact that women are still being oppressed in certain third world countries. Now, I'm not going to say which ones because, well, they get really defensive over that stuff. And contrary to popular belief, there actually are feminists who actually care about women in third world countries. One of the more prominent examples is Malala Yousafzai, that Pakistani girl who was shot by a member of the Taliban just for advocating for female education. And yet somehow she survived, fortunately. Honestly, it just makes me sick that this is the world our girls live in, where even if it's not them being treated like this, then they know that there's millions of other people of the same gender as them being treated like that in other countries, and I can only imagine how insulting this is to them. So yes, it's good to advocate for women's rights in other countries, but still, do we need constant reminders of it when it's not even relevant to what we're doing at the moment? Again, I just feel like the mere existence of women revolves around their gender, and granted it's not quite to the extent that the feminazis would let on, but it's still pretty prevalent. I don't know, just let girls do what they enjoy doing and, we don't need to make such a big deal out of it. And once again, I must emphasize, we are not shaming femininity. We're just acknowledging that femininity is already being shamed, and we're just trying to unshame it. We want to teach girls to be proud of themselves and who they are, and, we want to teach them that being a girl is awesome, and, girls can do anything that doesn't require upper body strength. Just so long as we're not sidelining the boys, because boys will be boys, and, they deserve equal rights as well. But my point is, everyone should just feel comfortable being themselves, doing what they enjoy doing, and just pursuing their lifelong ambitions. It isn't fair that they have to be reduced to this or that, just one attribute of them that really shouldn't be that prominent in their everyday lives,
That's boring. You're boring everybody. Quit boring everyone.
I think people should use the word actress because to call them actors is an insult, and it's a very, very powerful thing. Imagine you're a mother talking to your daughter and you say, oh, no, you must insist that everyone calls you an actor, not an actress. Well done, Mum, because I don't believe that your daughter actually had the association in her mind of actress and prostitute until perhaps you put it there by telling her about it. And I don't believe either that little girl necessarily believed that she couldn't act just because she was a mere girl. No, I think actually what you've done, Mum, is you've put into that little girl's head a very powerful idea that there is something genuinely lesser about being an actress. What could that be?
You serious?
Oh my god, there's just so much wrong with those last 42 seconds that I don't even know where to begin. If anything, I'd say the reverse is true. Aside from the part where you said that girls don't think they're lesser beings just because they're girls. That's the one thing you got right. And do you want to know why they don't think they're lesser beings? Because to them, being female is completely 100% normal. And boys are sort of the other different sex. And by calling these young aspiring girl actors actresses, we're basically teaching them that the reverse is true, that boys are sex number 1 and girls are sex number 2. Again, is this really the world we want our girls to live in? Yeah, I know I'm starting to repeat myself a bit, but just, you keep missing the point! Do you think girls like being treated as the second sex? Do they like being treated as less important than boys? Or do you think they want to be viewed on the same level as them? To properly explain the issue, I think it would be best if we reverse the genders in this scenario. Let's say you, as a young boy, grew up in a world where women ruled society, like pretty much throughout history. Then only in recent decades did men start to fight for equal rights. And in this day and age, men pretty much have equal rights, but they do still face a few disadvantages here and there. And let's say you, being the bright young lad you are, you aspire to become an actor. But then you discover that because the industry is dominated by women, male actors are referred to as actrums. Again, do you think this is fair, that everything has to revolve around women all the time, and everything must be viewed through a female lens? Is this really how you, as a boy, want to be treated? I mean, sure, there's plenty of great male actors even in this female-dominated universe. But why can't we just call them actors? Oh, because calling them an actor implies that there's something lesser and inferior about being an actrum. Oh, we can't call them actrums because men aren't as good at acting as women. And it implies that they're prostitutes. It's like, do you want to be treated as the second sex? Because this is the world our girls live in. Now, obviously, they're not going to make the connection to prostitution because, again, they're just children. They don't need to know about that yet. And plus, little girls don't have the mentality that, oh, it's female, it's got to be sexualized, or any of that. Because you need to remember that girls, when they get to a certain age, they start to fawn over cute boys, so... Now, about that scenario with the mother and her daughter, I'd say that by encouraging her daughter to identify as an actor, rather than an actress, you know, it's probably not going to send the implication that being female is somehow inferior. If anything, it'll probably have the opposite effect. She'll probably grow up thinking that, yeah, girls are awesome and girls can do anything that doesn't require, well, you get the idea. You know, girls are just bright and spunky and all that stuff, you know. Because, yeah, there's lots of bright young girls and women out there who aspire to become actors, writers, singers, musicians, scientists and all that stuff. Do they really deserve to be referred to as though they're the second sex? Because, yeah, we want our girls to feel confident in themselves to just, you know, be themselves and do what they enjoy doing and go the extra mile to pursue their lifelong ambitions. So why can't we just encourage them to do so? And once again, I'm not saying we should neglect the boys' needs either. I'm saying that everyone should have the right to be able to just be who they are and do whatever they enjoy doing, as long as they're not harming anyone or anything else. Well, anyway, back to the point I was trying to make. If we really want our girls to feel just as important as the boys, we should either get rid of the feminine suffix or introduce a masculine suffix to balance it out. Oh, and don't do both, because we don't want the boys to feel less important. And this right here proves just how hard you missed the point. As I said before, it's not that there exist separate terms for women, it's how they are formed. This analogy here doesn't make any sense because, again, the reason why no one takes an issue with the word mother is because it's not just father with some stupid suffix tacked on or some variation on the word father. You know, it's its own separate word. It's not like one is relying on the other. I mean, if female parents were referred to as fatheress, then this analogy would make more sense. Why, Lindybeige? Why? And that's the video. My final thoughts? Well, it's pretty terrible. I mean, I get that Lindybeige wanted to make a video about the feminazis and the PC police, dictating our language and limiting our freedom of speech. But I feel like he touched on the wrong subject material. And plus his reasoning was just contradictory. I mean, if he respects women, which if he does, once again, kudos, then why does he refer to women as though they're less important than men? Just pick a side and stick with it. By your own logic, Lindybeige, I could say that you insulted Kate Adie by calling her a journalist. Oh, we can't call her a journalistess because there's something lesser about being a woman, and women aren't as good at journalism as men. And it implies that they're prostitutes. If he really wanted to make a video on PC language, he probably should have done it on how feminazis try to respell the words woman and women, and it just looks like garbled up gibberish. Or how they make up all these weird pronouns that look more like French or Germans learning English for the first time. You know, that's the stuff we should be targeting. Not the removal of a suffix that indicates that one sex is less important. If there were suffixes for both sexes, it would not be an issue. So why isn't there a masculine suffix in this day and age? At least then both sexes would be affected by this. You know, women wouldn't be singled out. But with that said, I do enjoy most of Lindybeige's videos. Yeah, I had a look at his channel during production of this commentary, and I think he's a decent content creator.
That's generally what that side of the debate says. So what do we get from the other side? Those people are idiots! Well, they're not actually idiots. I mean, obviously.
And he is very informative on the topics he discusses.
We're used to the look of a modern, managed piece of woodland. And a lot of people imagine that that's what a natural wood looks like. And very often you will see in movies, they'll shoot a medieval sequence in a wood because it's a very cheap backdrop, isn't it? And people will say, oh, well, there you go, it's a wood. Of course it's authentic.
And I strongly recommend you check out Lindybeige's channel in the description below to see if you'd like his content. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know and I'll get back to them as soon as possible. This is ARC the Clarinet Master, and I'm signing off.